Hi, live from South Lake Tahoe, California. This is Kajukenbo Live. I got a special guest today, and actually it's a guest that I know very well. So most of the questions I'm not going to know myself, but for my listeners from all around the world that don't know him, um, you'll hear some of the questions we're going to ask him. But right now, I got Grandmaster Baca from Turlock, California. You on the line, Mr. Baca?
I am here. How you doing, Sifu?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Give it a
Yeah.
little history. How I know Grandmaster Baca. He took karate from me when he was at 8 years old, and he's my senior black belt. That's under HEMENES Kajukenbo. So a lot of you people already know who he is, especially all the people in the Bay Area and the United States. But for people that don't know him, we're going to do a little interview. So, how's everything in Turlock over there?
Turlock is, it's the valley. It's pretty boring, but it's nice. Turlock's a nice area for Central California. Gets hot in the summer. Other than that, it's nice.
Yeah, one of our black belt Sifu Shepherd lives in Turlock too. I know he's been trying to get a hold of you, and you guys go out and hang out for a while.
Yeah, no, we communicate on Facebook from time to time, so I'm sure we will.
Yeah. So let's get right into this. So what got you into the martial arts at a young age of 8?
Um, yeah, well, for me, it was actually a pretty boring story because I moved next door to you when I was a little kid. So there was nothing that I had planned to do martial arts. The only thing I will say is that I always wanted to do something athletically because I really didn't have a father. And my brother, I had an older brother who, and he wasn't too much into sports or stuff. And so I did want to do something athletically with both a father figure type. So I was looking for pretty much anything. And you just happened to be next door. And, you were right in when you were a young man, going off and competing all the time and winning championships and all those kata titles and fighting titles. And I just kind of walked in. I was lucky. Just we moved there.
Yeah, I was actually very blessed to have you next door to me, because look what it turned out. Now, now you've been in martial arts for a long time. Obviously, it's a lifetime thing for you. So what made it into a lifetime achievement for you?
Well, I think part of what I first talked about it really led into it. I mean, part of the reason that I always said I wanted a father figure or some kind of male role model was I had a single mom. I had a stepdad for a while, who you also know, but that's another story.
Yeah, we won't go there.
and I had 5 sisters, and my brother wasn't really into sports or anything athletic, and so consequently I wasn't very good at stuff. I was always clumsy, which you knew. I mean, I was clumsy, kind of uncoordinated. And, when you invited me to come into karate, you gave me that gi that you had to put on that you had when you were a kid. I mean, you remember what I did the first day I came into class, right?
Yeah, you fell down the stairs.
First day I walk in, I tripped down the stairs, and you're looking at me like, good God.
I thought, I got my hands full with this one.
What am I getting into with this kid? But one thing that you taught me and that I learned is that martial arts is unique to almost any other thing you can get into athletically, because you can literally work hard and overcome a lot of your shortcomings. I mean, I was clumsy, but you can work on balance. I was, probably a little pudgy, but you can get in shape. There's all kinds of little things that you can do if you just work hard.
Sure.
And so I found that out, and then I got good at it. So of course I wanted to stick with it.
Well, also too, you were by my side 7 days a week. You trained with me and you used to run with me and stuff, and then it helped too. I wound up marrying your sister, so that kind of helped a lot, and I was blessed in that part. She gave me 2 beautiful children, and she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. But
it wasn't like we were far away. I mean, I think you know how it was. I mean, for people who didn't know how it was, I mean, you guys were my second family. You had I had, even your siblings, your parents became like my quasi parents.
yeah,
I was over at your house for dinner as much as I ate at my own house, and that's how it came. That just wanted to, just wanted to keep getting better. And one thing I did learn, though, to go back to that working hard is I knew because I wasn't maybe as talented as some other guys that, when I went into that first class, I knew I was like the dunce of the class. But I knew that if I kept practicing, I'd get better. That's something you always instilled in us. And if we went on a family trip and we drove to Monterey or something for the day, I'd practice my forms in the back seat of the car. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I couldn't get up and do kicks, but I'd go over all the forms in my head, go through the blocks. I didn't want to skip a day. Yeah. So I think that helped me. After I started seeing some improvement and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not that bad." That helps. That helps big time because it makes you. That's why belts are so important, I think, in karate. A lot of people are down on belts, thinking that people just fight for rank, but it kind of shows you a little bit like, hey, I am getting better. I got
sure.
For me, it was a purple white belt.
Yeah. Well, you went from that dunce kid falling down the stairs to one of the top black belt competitors in the United States for a long time. So we were very lucky.
And that's what I've always told my students, too. I've always tried to tell them that you don't have to be that talented. Really, it sounds goofy, but it helps. It helps if you're a good athlete and you can, kick a million miles an hour and you're athletic. Mm-hmm. And sure, I did learn some athleticism. Obviously, I learned some balance and all that good stuff. But you don't have to if you're willing to put in the work and do things right and learn from the ground up. Foundation, which is another thing I see when I watch MMA stuff. I see these fighters that, which a lot of people watch, and they seem really sloppy. Mm-hmm. And the reason they seem sloppy is because they are. Yeah. Because nobody ever taught them right. They didn't learn from the foundation. They just walked in there and they started teaching them to tackle people and put them in leg locks and slug them when they're on the ground. And they didn't learn all the foundation stuff first.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think the MMA actually, from my opinion, has kind of hurt the martial arts because they've lost that foundation. And if you're a good fighter and you're a really tough guy, you can get out there and bang away. You can learn some locks and some wrestling moves and stuff like that. But a real martial artist, I don't think there's that too many of them in there. That's a real martial artist. There are some that are, but the majority of them aren't. They're just good fighters.
Right, yeah, they're just tough guys that learn how to do some moves, and more power to them. I'm not going to put them down for it. It's not real martial arts. It's fighting. It's fighting, which sure. Obviously martial arts fighting is a part of martial arts, but it's not really what we try to teach. What you tried to teach us, what I always tried to teach my students, is discipline. It's self-confidence. It's being a better person. It's all those things that we fail from time to time. We don't always live up to what we want to do, but it's not just about hey, I can take this guy out and I can beat this guy up. Yeah. And, that's. I don't know how important that really is at the end of the day.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question. You tell me what the difference is in the martial arts now than compared to when you first started and going up the ranks with myself.
Well, the biggest difference is nobody, and I think it's a societal problem. People aren't willing to let their children or even themselves actually learn. Mm-hmm. Everybody's so uptight about, a kid getting hit or some other kid passing some other kid up in another rank or being offended by this or that. We trained hard. We didn't really have a junior class because there wasn't, when I was in it in the late 70s, there wasn't a lot of juniors. It was karate classes. Mm-hmm. And almost all the karate schools were pretty good. There were some exceptions, but they were pretty good because it wasn't big business. Yeah. But then I remember when the Karate Kid came out in '84, I believe, that there was a big boost in martial arts as far as kids. And all of a sudden we had these huge junior classes, which I loved because then I was able to go out there as a teenager and help teach and all that kind of good stuff. But people were getting into it kind of for the wrong reasons, which is okay because a lot of them stuck with it. But the point is, I mean, people just weren't ready for what real karate is. It wasn't about waxing on and waxing off. You know what I mean? It was, you know the things that we did. I mean, we'd train with real swords, and I mean, obviously we were careful. We weren't trying to stab each other, but you'd swing real swords at our head and real swords, or we didn't jump. We got hit.
Yeah. Well,
not sure they were dull. They were dull a little bit, so we wasn't going to cut our feet off, but we definitely would get cuts.
Oh, I remember a lot of welts and a lot of cuts. See, if the people trained the way we trained back then, they'd be in court every day or they'd be closed down. Right now,
people think we were crazy. People would think you were crazy.
Yeah, if we didn't bleed in class, it wasn't a good class, and the windows were always steamed up, and even you being a little guy, you were in there with the adults. Being there with the adults as a little guy, you weren't out there with the little kids, and that's what also made you really good too.
100%, because as I started, at first, okay, I got my ranks, I moved up to purple white and then purple, basically because I worked hard and I learned all my forms, my katas, my pinyans, my grab arts, all that good stuff. But as far as like sparring and competing against people, I was sparring with you when I was sparring with, other guys that were, 15, 16, 17 when I was 8, 9. And, and I couldn't really hang with them. But one thing that you did really drill in me, and I took it to heart, is I kept coming. And they may knock me down, I'd get up and I'd keep coming. And that's one thing I think I had, is I wasn't afraid to take a beating.
Yeah, you took a beating.
Go ahead.
And you took a beating too, because they didn't hold back on you, because you was a little guy, you were wailing away, and then, but look what happened, and wind up mostly every division from little kids division all the way up to black belt division, you took first place, grand champion, so it paid off.
I remember there was one summer when, in the summer, of course, you remember me tapping on your window. Hey, we going to go work out?
Yeah, at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I remember.
and we'd do all our stuff. And you trained me all summer. We trained, day and night all the time. Mm-hmm. And pretty much the person I sparred with was you. Yeah. And I remember going to a tournament. I'd been to a tournament for a few months, and you're like, all right, listen, spar these kids exactly how you spar me. Just go pretend like they're me. I was like, yes, Sifu, of course. I went in there, and I'm used to going in there against you and getting smacked around. Well, I went in and sparred like they were you, and all of a sudden I'm doing all the smacking around, and these kids are flying out of the ring, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
What's going on? I'm looking at you like, you have a look on your face like, you see? Going back to what you were saying about, and I don't want to make a big deal about this, but we'll talk about society. I mean, look at the Marine Corps even now. Even in the Marine Corps, they're not allowed to train these guys like we see in the movies. You see these guys where they're insulting them and they're making them do this and that. And people don't realize they don't do that. Now, sure, that was wartime and all that good stuff too. Mm-hmm. But they don't do that because they want to be mean to them. They're trying to prepare them. You know, I mean, and when you would have us do stuff with swords and and the other exercises that we would do that if I even tried to explain would sound like abuse.
Yeah.
And so I won't even go into some of the stuff we did. Yeah. And you were just preparing us. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize that being prepared is huge when it comes to anything. Yeah. That's why martial arts is so very, very important in my mind. And that's why, going back again, if I'm going to re-answer that question of why I stuck with it my entire life, what you can do for somebody by teaching them that hard work ethic. You don't have to be the best if you're willing to work harder than the guy next to you. Yeah. All those kind of things lead to success in any field in life. I mean, I know that you've had the same experience that I've had where you have students that will contact you on social media and say, hey, I'm a lawyer now. I'm a successful real estate guy. I'm a successful doctor. Yeah. And a lot of that I owe to you because of the discipline and the work ethic you taught me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that every day from people all over.
Right, and that's huge. huge. I mean, not everybody's going to be a lifer as far as they're not always going to be teaching. They're not always going to be, maybe in karate their whole life as far as training. But it works for every aspect that you could possibly get into. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, for that matter, or you're a doctor or a U.S. senator.
Yeah.
Work ethic and morals is important.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just got one the other day from an old student that, I barely remember, and he saw one of our videos on our iPod, our podcast on YouTube, and he texted me and told me, he said, you know what, if it wasn't for you, he goes, I'd be dead. He goes, you saved my life. And I'll be, oh, wow, and I get that all the time. It just, so it's kind of a good feeling for myself. Plus, I know you've done the same thing. You've helped so many people through the years come up in the martial arts. You've done the same thing. The students look up to you, the same thing. When you look up to me, they look up to you. And, so it just kind of keeps going and going and going, The only sad part I found right now is that it took a long time to get a black belt, or we didn't have that many black belts. If we had one or two a year, that was like, wow. And now I see people give them 50 black belts out at Christmas time to kids, to all the way to adults. So that part's the only kind of sad part for me.
Well, yes. I mean, you're calling a spade right there. I was maybe kind of dancing around that question, but really that's what it is. I mean, these kids, and not only that, we would go back to this preparedness, which I probably explained pretty poorly. They're not prepared. You hear about these kids that they get their black belts in certain studios at 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, 13, and they think that they're trained.
Yeah.
And then they they get into a situation on the street and they
yeah.
And it doesn't go well for them. And I'm not talking just for kids, I'm talking for adults too.
Yeah. Well, to me it's like handing a child a gun with no bullets. Because he thinks he's a black belt, but realistically he's only a yellow belt or whatever.
Now, I remember specifically when I got my junior black belt, because in Kajukenbo, I know in our association, we didn't allow I believe it was under 16 to have a first degree black belt.
There was only two. There was only two, and that was you and Michael Smith from and Great Grandmaster Gaylord promoted him. You and Michael was the only two.
But it was called a junior black belt.
Yeah.
And so even that but it was still, I mean, when you're 12 years old, I was 12 years old. May 19th, 1982, I remember the day like it was yesterday.
And then I also got a lot of flack from all the other black belts in the association because I did that. And then I laughed because you wind up going up against every one of the students every time in tournaments and beat them every time. Bip, 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 bip. And they all gave me crap about it, and you wind up beating them all.
Yeah. Well, I remember that. I remember they weren't very happy about, we don't want this kid's going to be a black belt. Because at that time, I remember there wasn't very many of us in that association that were black belts.
Only two, you and Michael Smith.
Right. And even the adults, we only had you had a handful. Of course, you had, the Juarez's had their guys, the Palins had their guys, and Golden Dragons and all that stuff. They all had their guys, but it's not like they had a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of the early stages of the association under Charles Gaylord.
Yeah.
And so it was. I remember it was kind of a controversy, and I remember that's when you brought me to his school in Fremont, and he took me in that little room that he had for private lessons, and he'd show me this, show me that, ask me a bunch of questions, and of course, I'm nervous and sweating, but at the end, you guys decided to promote me to that honor, so that was
sure. And it was Great Grandmaster Gaylord's wishings. He gave me his blessings too, so it just wasn't me. It's just myself. I'm not being cocky, but I just like proving everybody wrong because I already knew better what was going to happen. So but let me get to this last question before I run out of time today. I know you teach privately and stuff like that, and some of our conversations you were talking about opening up a studio. Now, are you willing to open up that studio and because it's a full-time job? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it is something that I as far as a full-time studio, I stepped away from as my children were growing up, because that time was obviously very important to me as well.
Sure. But you still taught privately while you stepped away.
Absolutely. Oh, of course. I always stay involved. Always stay involved. But you know how it is when you have a full-time studio. It's not about being involved. It's your life.
Oh, yes. I know.
It's not like, this is important to me. No, this is my life. So do I want that to be my life again? Yes, because of some of the things we touched on, how important it is, and how important it is to me, and how important it is, the stuff that I went through as a kid, yourself. I mean, it's important to pass this stuff on.
Sure.
And do I think I can? I know I will. It's just a matter of deciding where I want to have the studio. Do I want to stay here in the Central Valley and do it in the Turlock, Livingston, Modesto area, or do I want to do it somewhere else? But it's absolutely something I plan on doing, and I'd like to have it up and open within the next 2 years.
That'd be great. Of course,
we'll have a great. Go ahead.
And I know that you'll be successful at it, because when you helped me run our studio in San Leandro, our peak was like 400 students. And I remember me and you signing up 10, 20 students a day, a lot of times, and it was just like a well-oiled machine. We had that thing going good, but it takes a good leader too. Just it's not easy to do it by yourself.
You're 100%, and that's the thing too. It's like yourself. If you ever wanted to run a full-time studio again, I mean, you're by yourself over there. If I want to run a full-time studio again, I'm by myself over here. So you wouldn't be like just jumping right into it, and you're going to have 100 students in 6 months.
Oh yeah, I if I open up another studio, which I'd like to, I just want a small studio. I don't want the big 400 student studio again. I just couldn't do it. I'm too old, and plus I don't have the back then we had a staff of 8 black belts, and we had 3 secretaries, so we had it going pretty good.
Oh yeah, we couldn't even, if we did that, you couldn't even answer the phone.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up, because we're on a time limit here, but I'm glad to have you on this interview, and I'm sure everybody's glad to hear your thoughts on a lot of stuff. And if people don't know is how blessed I am to have you as my black belt, plus as my friend. And that's a good thing too. You're just not my student; you're my friend. And I love you very much, and I think things will go good for you.
I appreciate that. We weren't just instructor and student. We were always family, and how family is. Even if you don't agree on certain things from time to time, which not everybody agrees on the same thing, but we've always had each other's back.
Always, 100%. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you can't beat that. That's number one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is Kajukenbo live from South Lake Tahoe, and that was Grandmaster Baca from Turlock, California. And again, I'm Senior Grandmaster HEMENES. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll see this interview. It should be up in about 4 hours, just about 4 hours to upload. But again, looking forward to seeing you next. Our next interview will be with a professor from Greece that's under us. Again, thank you.